Hey everybody, welcome back to Honored Madman, and unlike yesterday's video, today's actually will be bite-sized, hopefully. So yesterday I talked a lot about how Maliketh was technically a failure, but he's not necessarily responsible for the fallout of events that followed the Night of Black Knives. For example, the spread of the Death Blight. That's hardly his fault. He's not the one who chose to bury Godwyn down there at the roots of the Great Tree. But I neglected to mention the fact that it was confirmed that he was betrayed by Marika. It says so right in his remembrance. So I figured in today's short little lore entry that we would explore how Marika betrayed her beastly half-brother. So it's not outwardly stated how she betrayed him anywhere, but there is a lot of evidence pointing to the fact that she may have had a hand in the Night of Black Knives. But let's get right into it. So when Ranni was pulling off this theft that allowed her to enact the Night of Black Knives, we know for a fact that she needed help stealing the Rune of Death, and while we know her brother Rykard must have had a hand in it, as he was granted those traces that allowed him to parry the Black Blade if they ever were to come to blows, personally I think he had a hand in the theft itself. Perhaps he was the only one brave enough and that hated the Golden Order enough to attempt this. Well, him or agents loyal to him at least, I think that also might be more likely. Or perhaps he created a diversion that allowed the theft to happen. Maybe he drew Maliketh away from his guard post and thieves, either sent by Ranni or Rykard, managed to make off with the Rune of Death. But here's the thing, for any of this to have happened, Ranni would have needed inside info on how to find the rune, which would surely have been well guarded, probably by Maliketh himself. This could have only been provided by Marika or someone extremely close to her, which most people will think is probably just the Newman women that we know to have become the Black Knife Assassins. But I don't think there's any reason to believe that any of them would act without her order or behind her back in any way. First of all, there's very few Newmen even in the world. We know that Marika was a Newman. Now, besides being a not-so-subtle Lord of the Rings reference, the Newman people are unique in a lot of ways. They're the supposed descendants of another world, long-lived but seldom born. The Japanese translation elaborates on this a little further, where the characters used could mean another world, or they could be referring to the underworld, which I feel like kind of hints at the fact that they come from the Eternal Cities, which are, well, under the world. The Japanese version also refers to them as Marabito, which I'm probably mispronouncing, but it literally means rare person. The word itself is rather ancient, and itself refers to a supernatural being who comes from afar, bringing gifts of wisdom, spiritual knowledge, and happiness. Oh yeah, that totally sounds like Marika or the other Newman we encounter. And aside from Queen Marika and possibly the player character if you pick Newman as your race, the Black Knife Assassins are the only other Newman in the game. Well, except for maybe those giant ants that drop Newman runes. So in more ways than one, the lore hits us over the head with the fact that Newmen are in fact very rare. And if we look around, the Black Knife Assassins all appear to be guarding things. For the most part, places that Marika would care about. The only time we ever see them acting as actual assassins is when they killed Godwyn and everybody else. And of course when they attempt to kill Blythe and succeed in killing Iji. And not only that, but the Black Knife Assassins are all referred to as having close ties to Marika by Sorcerer Rajir and in in-game text. And while that does seem a little too obvious for my liking, it seems more than likely that they were acting on her orders or she loaned them to Ranni. But we haven't really got to the why. Like, why would Marika do this? To what end? What does all of this accomplish? Well, in a lot of ways, it sets the stage rather nicely for the Shattering. On one hand, you've got the chance that maybe Marika did all this so she could have an excuse to bound Death and basically begin sowing seeds for the Shattering to happen. We know Marika was probably trying to free herself from the Greater Will and maybe even use Radagon as her sort of scapegoat replacement so she could get out, but that's something I'm going to talk a lot more about in the Radagon video. Now, on the other hand, there's the chance that Marika did help Ranni with this, but that Godwyn's death was Ranni altering the deal. I think it's very likely that she was okay with all the other demigods' deaths because, well, they weren't even important enough to be named. The best those demigods got were the walking mausoleum treatment. I guess it isn't so bad. They've got some of the most metal guardians in the game. I mean, those guys were loyal enough to sever their heads to serve their lords in death. So they did have some people cared about those demigods, but I do not think Marika did. Godwyn, however, was different. I mean, look at all the statues there are of her carrying his corpse. At least that's what I think the statues of. It's above like every crypt in Altus, I believe. Now, if this was the case, then she did get what she wanted. She got the excuse she needed to bound Death. But it did come at great cost, and it left her really bitter about the whole thing, which could be why the Black Knife Assassins hunt down Ranni's accomplices after she, dips out and they're no longer protected by a demigod. This could also explain why Godwyn was buried at the roots of the Great Tree. It could be seen as Marika in a way salting the earth because she knows Ranni was out there attempting to now establish her own order and going against Marika's wishes. I mean, we know Marika must have some knowledge of Deathblight because look at what happened to the giants in the mountaintops. And to me, this could also explain why Miquella was working towards resurrecting Godwyn. I think there's even a chance that Marika was planning on being a part of Miquella's new order, at least when she made the decision to help Ranni with her plot in the first place. And through all this, Maliketh just wound up as the unfortunate casualty of scheming gods. While every demigod may have feared him, the true god betrayed him and didn't give it a second thought. So I'd say how Marika betrayed Maliketh is pretty clear, but why isn't so easy to figure out. But let me know in the comments what you guys think. Like, why do you guys think Marika betrayed him? I mean, it is quite fucked up. I don't want to get too off topic, and the video is already like 5 minutes long, so I'm going to cut it off there. Today's video was supposed to be about the brothers D, but that'll be tomorrow because I couldn't stop kicking myself in the head for forgetting about Maliketh's remembrance description and how it blatantly stated that Marika betrayed him. Anyway though, I hope you guys found this rather short video somewhat entertaining, somewhat informative, and if you liked it, please like it. If you disliked it, please dislike it. And if you like hearing me ramble from various different amounts of time, please consider subscribing because that really helps me here out at the channel. But as always, let us have our outro and some final thoughts maybe? So look, I don't necessarily think that the Black Knife Assassins taking out E.G. and attempting to take out Blythe really proves that Marika didn't want Godwyn dead. She just as likely could be cleaning up loose ends that knew she did want Godwyn dead. In this case, the loyal servants of Ranni, another one of the many pawns in her original plan. Although I can't say whether or not Marika was down with Ranni taking over, I doubt that. I do think that the Black Knife Assassins guarding the way into the Halig Tree kind of prove, or at least indicate, that Marika was helping Miquella with his whole Halig Tree situation. But these are greater mysteries that we will get into at a later date. As always, be safe everyone. I'll see you next time.